The Cold Omaha Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Procedurally Generated. I'm Henry Bell, and joining me today are Tom Schreier and Brandon Bowling. There's a fair amount of news this week, and we played a couple of games as well. We're going to be covering the YouTube demonetization issues that have been ongoing, the leak of Darksiders III, details on the first Breath of the Wild DLC, and a whole lot more later in the show. But first, we're going to get things started with what we've been playing this week. Tom, Brandon, how's it going?
Pretty good.
I'm still alive.
Nice. Well, I'm guessing you guys have actually played, hopefully, a fair amount of stuff this week, because we actually had quite a few titles come out. I know, Brandon, in particular, I know you were really excited about Dawn of War 3. Have you had a chance to check it out?
Yeah, I played a bit of the single player and kind of delved a little bit into the multiplayer just to try it out. It's an experience.
Sure. So you want to? I mean, I've been playing quite a bit of it too. So I'm curious. Like, you want to give some more detail there? What are your thoughts on? Let's pick a mode. Let's say single player.
For the single player, it's pretty interesting. Let's just start with the game itself. Dawn of War 3 is the third in the series for Dawn of War. It's one of Relic's, one of the best Warhammer 40K, I guess, IPs for video games. In general. So Warhammer 40K is a tabletop game that has, in Games Workshop, the people who basically make that have a habit of handing out that license to just about anybody. And we've had like a huge flood of like subpar games.
Yeah, like 95% of the Games Workshop titles.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh. But the one that's shined out the most has been Dawn of War over the course of, I guess, over 10 years that the game's IP has been running. And this is the third installment after 7 years from Dawn of War 2.
Wow.
And,
I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, and yeah, that's what I thought, too. Because I remember playing that like last year, and I'm like, oh, it still looks fresh. But, so it's an interesting game because each Dawn of War title severely diverges from its previous title. So the first Dawn of War was kind of a traditional RTS with a couple of innovative features. For example, like the rally or morale and the resource points that force you to kind of focus on map control rather than, say, turtling and just focusing on your one resource and building slowly. And the second game went from changed to that and went to a completely different perspective, which is kind of like your not Brothers in Arms, but like
Company of Heroes.
Company of Heroes. I always get those mixed up. But a Company of Heroes where you kind of are doing a lot of micro where you're kind of like real-time strategy tactics.
Yeah, I mean, they completely stripped out the base building element.
Yep, and you control at 4 and then rare occasions 5 different unit sets or different squads. And, of course, this is where the hero units really stood out because in Dawn of War 2, you kind of just made your own hero and stuff.
Strongly disagree. I think that the heroes stood out most in the DLC for the first Dawn of War, when you had like equipment and stuff.
Well, you had equipment too.
Yeah, but when you were doing like the planetary conquest and stuff, don't try and pretend those elites didn't stand out. The Necron Lord and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was one of the things that stood out for the RTS, like the glory kills that they kind of had in there, which was super cool to look at, and it also like made melee combat in RTS a thing, which I thought was great. But it was more personal with 2 because you literally made your hero.
So how do you feel about 3? Yeah,
3 is kind of like this weird combination of the two because the first 2 games split the community. Because some people like the first one, and then some people like the second one. I like both, but
I like the first
they're 2 very divergent play styles. And then you kind of get the third one, and it kind of combines a lot of those features. Like now we have base building again, but we also have the microing of like your heroes, which is amazing, but also kind of frustrating if you're kind of like a Dawn of War 1 fan per se.
Maybe a little bit. Really, I'd say Dawn of War 1 is pretty similar to 3 compared to 2. I'd say 2 was the biggest departure. This is pretty much just Dawn of War 1, but with more elites.
Yeah. I guess you could say that. From my perspective, playing it, it's okay. from my perspective. Not really. I'm enjoying it, but not as much as I kind of want to. I'm very used to playing traditional RTSs where I have like my squad and team setup, and a lot of the design mechanics in this game are kind of a turnoff. One of the major ones for me is just in story mode, just playing in general, whether it's multiplayer or single player, is the fact that I can't map hotkeys. The only time
you can't remap hotkeys.
No, so you have your key set up, and for example, if you look at the HUD, there's a small like rectangle on the right that has like all your kind of I wouldn't say minor commands, but like things like defend and stuff like that.
We get it. Yeah.
Yeah, those are all kind of tabbed over there, and like for example, defend is like Control J, and I'm like, no, no. That sounds like way too much work.
When would you be using the defend command? I'm just trying to figure out. Like,
defend command works really well in the second story mission, for example.
Like, what's the difference between the defend command, for example, and just attack move?
Because attack move is when attack move basically is an enhanced version of move that allows you to.
I'm not asking you to explain what attack move is. I'm asking you to explain what this defend is. Defend is like guard.
So, like for example, in one of the story missions where you have to guard a thing, I usually set units there, and then they'll guard an area around that object, so that when melee units come in to try to take it out, they'll immediately aggro on them.
Is that different from attack move if you just attack move them to that location?
If you attack move them to that location, once they stop moving, that thing stops.
What does?
The attack.
They still attack anything that comes near them?
For example, like I have multiple unit sets, so I have multiple unit groups. Uh-huh. So if I go to another unit after I do attack move, after they clear out the units and don't aggro anymore, they'll start getting attacked by people on range unless I have them set to range combat. And even then, they still have to get into an aggro range. Whereas if I have these guys press in, when the enemy presses into the guard range or the defend range, they'll immediately start aggroing onto them. So that's one of the reasons I actually started playing around with that in the story, which made it a lot easier for some of the missions.
Interesting.
Because they have a lot of the basic RTS features that you see in games like StarCraft, Warcraft 3, but
it's very Warcraft 3, especially with the elites.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. But I like having like all my commands mapped out in a specific way, so I can kind of breeze them through on the keyboard.
Yeah,
which is something that like that's the only thing I will breeze on the keyboard because I know where everything is. But
it's interesting that you're having issues with it because I actually was going to compliment it on its hotkey system. I actually really like it. The attack move is admittedly the only like unit command that I ever use hotkeys for, but building and stuff has been a total breeze for me because they use locational hotkeys. So based on where they are on a grid menu, that's what the hotkey is. So like C is 2 down, 2 over, which is 2 down, 2 over on your keyboard. And then like the top row of 3 is QWE, and then the next row is ASD, and then ZXC, which I think has been really nice for like speed building and stuff. But I can definitely see why it would throw someone because traditionally they use like the first letter of the word or whatever for build commands.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into the habit of like mapping when I was playing Homeworld. Mm-hmm. And
it is a shame that those aren't remappable. I mean, they should be. There's no reason not to have them remappable.
It's kind of a basic thing for me. Also, the upgrade paths. Another thing too in the single player is that I'm not quite getting used to the jumping between factions. So the story, without going into details, is very science fantasy.
It's Warhammer 40k, yeah. Orcs, Eldar, Space Marines on a planet.
Yeah, just
stuff
doing
happens.
It up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just stupid stuff.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. But I'm very used to the traditional, like you have your story path for each faction. This time they've kind of spun all of it into one story, and each mission is kind of jumping between factions.
Yeah, it's weird the way they did it. It's like it's like if Dawn of War's campaign rotated between factions every level. Which it's a little bit disorienting, to be sure, to jump from Space Marines immediately to Orcs, immediately to Eldar, repeat, and not be able to just, establish yourself with any one race.
Yeah, I agree with you completely there.
It's not too bad, though, honestly.
No,
I don't hate
definitely
it.
not the worst.
It's nice.
It's not the worst.
At least it's not, at least you don't have to deal with the monotony that sometimes you get where you're like, I just want to get to the, Orc or the Eldar campaign, but this, I just keep having to do Space Marine missions.
Exactly. And I think they do that because and aside from them trying to tell a story and kind of ramp up into the ending, which always is a joy with these games, I'm not going to spoil that for anybody. But another thing that I like about it, too, is it kind of gives you a bit of a limited tutorial for each of the factions so that you can kind of jump into the multiplayer if you do the story first, kind of with like your feet under you and kind of at a slow jog.
Definitely. Now, speaking of the multiplayer, I have some very strong opinions about it, but I'm curious what your impressions have been.
It's weird because I want to like it a lot, but it kind of feels like an RTS that's been stripped of some of its RTS-ness, which kind of sounds weird.
To me, it feels like somebody built up the skeleton of an RTS and then like an executive producer came in and went, this isn't League of Legends.
Yeah. So, exactly. So, here's my main issue, and I don't want to really start griping too deeply into it because there's things I like about it a lot. And there's things I'm kind of and there's things I don't like. So the thing I like about it is that, again, this game is showy as all hell. It focuses heavily on the use of hero units.
Sure. Let's not beat around the bush, though. Let's explain how the multiplayer game mode works before we get into our thoughts on characters and stuff.
So the multiplayer game works effectively like a weird fusion between RTS and MOBA. So usually if you're playing RTS, it's generally you win if you destroy all the main base structure, which is usually the headquarters.
Destroy the enemy HQ, basically.
Yeah. Destroy the enemy HQ. This game is a little bit different because there's a bit of a step setup. So what you have to do first is, rather than destroy the enemy's headquarters, you have to first destroy a shield generator that shields the core base.
Which is randomly placed about, 150 meters off in the middle of nowhere from your actual base.
Exactly. That you can or should defend?
I think you're supposed to defend it because it gives you your invincibility ability on the turret behind it. It's so ridiculous. Okay, let me just listen. I'm just going to run this down because I don't have it here. This thing, the way it works is you've got standard RTS building where you're building, different unit producing structures and upgrade buildings and stuff like that. There's about 5 or 6 buildings total per race, which is a lot lower than you'd normally expect in a game like this. Then to progress from there, rather than having any kind of resources, Dawn of War uses the strategic point capture system where you capture these nodes that will then produce set amounts of resources based on which nodes you capture. Different nodes have different resources. Then you have the actual multiplayer game mode where you are not just capturing the resources and taking out your enemy or warring over those resources. You are forced into this RTS lane-based mode where every base is the farthest reaches the base have 2 shield generators out there that you have to defend. And the shield generators don't serve any real purpose outside of they are a MacGuffin that you need to go defend. And if you keep them alive, it means the turret, which don't ask me why there's a neutral turret in your base, but there's a turret in your base, can use those shield generators to become temporarily invincible. And of course, the turret has to be destroyed by the enemy team after they destroy the shield generators so that they can then attack the core without being harassed by the turret. So now that they've destroyed the shield generators and the turret, now you can attack the core, and you can just ignore the enemy and their base because all that matters is that you destroy the core.
Yep. There's a couple of other things, too, that are pretty interesting. There's, like, different...
I don't want to... Hold up. I don't want to keep moving. Like, what the fuck? Like, we need to talk about that. You can't don't just gloss over that. Like, that's fucked. It's terrible. It's the worst RTS game mode I've ever seen. It's completely unsatisfying. It, forces you to defend random locations on the map that you have no strategic value for outside of you're supposed to defend this.
One hell of a slog.
Yeah, some of the maps are so poorly set up that you can't even really defend the resources that are supposed to be quote unquote yours.
Yeah, and even entering, like, if you're playing on, like, the winter, like, 2v2 map, some of the lanes there are so narrow that, like, if that cannon's active, like, and they have heroes, you're just going to start, like, hemorrhaging massive amounts of units.
It's really, really stupid. It's so poorly advised. I don't know who saw that and went, yes, this is what we want, because it's ass backwards. It's the worst thing about the game, by far, which sucks, because I really wanted to like this game a lot, but this really, 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 really hurts it, and for no good reason. It's just a stupid thing to do. There's no innovative, like, oh, that's a neat novelty idea. This was a bad idea at inception. I don't understand how this was not, like, caught by a producer or someone and said, we're cutting this. This is garbage.
Yeah.
It does not add anything.
Is that it's the only game mode.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have a traditional... How do they not have a traditional, like... what would it take? 2 minutes of scripting to write a win condition so that you can just destroy all enemy structures?
Yeah, and then just literally remove both of those. Remove the shield generator, remove the
turrets.
Shield.
And the core. It's just so stupid because the way it encourages you to play, is to harass your opponent's multiple shield generators, which they're trying to defend both of, but you have no stationary turrets in this game unless you're the orcs. So you can't, like, build up turrets or anything around the shield generator. You can just pile units on top of it, and
that's another major issue, because another thing I don't particularly like about the mode at all is there's these levels of escalation which affect your resource generation for however many resource nodes you capture. It also affects your unit count.
Yes, and for the orcs, it actually affects which upgrades and units are available, because orcs don't have HQ upgrades.
Yeah, the main issue I have with that is that because it kind of, like, throttles you, it seems like a measure that's been presented to prevent you from rushing.
I'm not sure what it's for, because I thought that it went up in response to, like, the total value that's been put into armies, or, like, the number of strategic points captured. It seems like it's just, like, a slow timer. Like, I've never had it where I'm like, oh, it's already, escalation level 3. I can start making knobs for the orc army. It's like, no, you look down at your watch and you're like, holy shit, it's still escalation 1 30 minutes in.
Yeah, and the problem is that since that stifles it, and I think that really stifles, like creativities in terms of how you want to play the game. You're totally railroaded. Like, if you're playing Eldar in comparison to, like, Space Marines and stuff, typically if you're playing an RTS, typically a lot of people might do, like, a slight turtle instead of pressing the field. They'll press the field, they'll press a little bit, get resource points that can be easily defended, and then they'll turtle and then do a tech upgrade. Mm-hmm. So they won't have as many units, but those units will be tougher. Eldar, I played them in multiplayer twice. Their tier 2 upgrades are substantial, like, in terms of cost, but they're very useful.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, it costs a lot, which means that if I want to invest in that before, like, escalation level 2, I'm completely open to just getting my
well, that brings up a bigger issue I have with Dawn of War as an RTS in general, which is that I think resource management is a huge part of how real-time strategy games are supposed to be played, and I think that they pointlessly kind of force you into doing everything at their speed, their way. Like, you don't really, realistically, you can either have really slow resource generation or really, really slow resource generation. Those are your choices. Like, you can either focus on capturing as many strategic points as possible, as early as possible, and then you're going to hit the wall almost immediately where you're waiting again for upgrades and everything. Or you cannot focus on that and get completely fucked later in the game because you have no money whatsoever and can't even afford a listening post to cover your strategic points.
Yeah, because the two resources, power and requisition, are absolutely necessary in combinations to have a cohesive set of units.
Which brings up another issue, which is that power is not distributed nearly enough. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's a massive problem when you're trying to get your vehicles and stuff off the ground, because they cost 300-400 power each, when you're like, oh, I'm generating 1 power per second. Like, I don't have 4 minutes to set aside to get the
worst part
resources
is
to
like
start production on one dreadnought.
Exactly. The worst part is about that is that I was doing that, and then I actually went into the negative, so I just wasn't generating any power.
See, that shouldn't even be possible, and it's just so frustrating because I come from Command and Conquer or StarCraft, where you can just create more worker units to increase your resource production, and resource production is throttled by the number of bases you have, which I like, the idea of expanding to multiple locations and stuff like that, which then in turn allows you to make more unit creation structures and stuff like that. But Dawn of War cuts all that out and says, no. Resources are these stupid strategic points. And that really bothers me, because they have potential for a better system.
That's really weird is as you get late into the game, those resource, just because you have more resource points that have been upgraded, your generation of resources decreases.
Yeah, it seems to decrease the larger your army size, I think.
Yeah.
Which is really, really annoying, because it means they basically punish you for maxing your army early. So you have to either use your army right away to get the value from it and not have it hit your income, or just hope that your income can survive being horribly inefficient.
Right. It's just...
Here's the thing, though, and I want to be clear. The multiplayer is trash in this game. It really is. It doesn't have redeeming qualities. You can't even do a regular destroy all buildings victory state in offline skirmishes, which drives me mad. That said, I think the campaign is really solid in this game. The army painter is back, which I'm always a fan of. I think the elites...
There's a couple... I have a couple of gripes with that.
I think the elites are a really, really good, in-depth, well-fleshed-out system. I like the number of elites. I like that you can choose which elites are going to be available to you in a given level. I like the standing orders feature they added, which are you can take 3 passive benefits to your army that customize the way it plays within your race. So, for example, you could have it so that when knobs use their taunt ability, they get a damage shield temporarily. That's just an example of one, and there's like 30 or 40 of them per playable faction. So I think that they have like a really good core of a game here. The issue is they have these weird tacked on notions of... I know that it's been a kind of a staple of Dawn of War, but I've always thought it was stupid, the strategic points in replacing collecting the gas, or what the equivalent of Vespene gas that they had in the first Dawn of War. And then they've also now shoehorned in this weird lane-based MOBA setup that is really... It really, really hurts the game. And I think if those two things weren't in the game, it would be one of the best RTSs on the market today. And I just don't understand why they feel the need to differentiate in a genre that's dead. It's not like they have a ton of competition.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, because RTS is a niche market. Like, you'll get cells.
When was the last major RTS that was released? You can't say StarCraft 2.
Nope. Deserts of Karak.
That was not major. That was basically an indie game. I mean, come on. Like, that's what I'm getting at, though. I mean, Grey Goo, that was an indie game. I don't know. It's been ages since a real RTS has come out, and I don't understand why, when they have the whole market available to themselves, they would be like, let's do something new.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we could argue that, but Deserts of Karak is a tradition. There's a couple of, there's another indie one that recently released that's kind of a skeleton, but even that game, I can't remember what it's called, but even Deserts of Karak, for example, is way more fleshed out in terms of an RTS, even in its multiplayer and single player.
Sure, I'm just saying it's not, mainstream.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I would even say the quality's on par as well. Like, honestly, when I play this game, it looks great. It runs pretty well. The only technical issue I have is that its its anti-aliasing is weirdly taxing.
Is it? I haven't had any issues.
I don't have any issues, but I could see, then again, I have a top-end PC, and when I turn it on to medium, it cuts my frames in half, and I'm just like, wow. Damn. I mean, it's still over 60, but still. Imagine if you were running that on a potato.
Sure. Well,
yeah,
so Tom, you still alive over there?
This is literally blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So seriously, for someone like me who hasn't played this game, you said it's kind of a dying genre. I guess I'm mixed on if I would jump into this. I mean,
Pass.
It seems like...
Do you know what Warhammer 40... Does Warhammer 40K mean anything to you?
It does not. Outside of I've heard you two say it.
Hard pass. Hard pass.
Okay.
This is a game that I could only recommend to a fan of the series and a fan of the franchise.
Yeah,
I'm really in a tough spot here. I don't recommend I don't regret the money that I've spent on it, but unless you already own it, you probably don't need it.
Exactly. I would suggest, even if you are a hardcore fan of Warhammer, I would suggest holding off until we see until like the first 2 expansions.
Yeah, we need to see what other factions get added in, what other game modes get patched in, because there is a good game here. It's just pointlessly locked up behind some nonsense and bad ideas.
Yeah, and even though I like the story, my ultimate conclusion really is that if you're looking for a good RTS, honest to God, just buy Homeworld or Deserts of Karak.
Buy StarCraft 2.
Or StarCraft.
Or, buy Dawn of War Soulstorm. Because the first Dawn of War is an excellent RTS.
Yeah, once they patched it.
Anyways,
Gotta love community contributors on that one, then.
No kidding. Anyways, though, that pretty much sums up Dawn of War 3, I think. It was a lot of excitement. Definitely hits some key points of the IP in terms of like aesthetic and stuff like that, but really falls short as far as its actual game credentials go. So, a bit of a bummer, but we'll keep an eye on it and let you guys know if it gets fixed up, because Brandon and I will still be playing it because we are desperately addicted fans to that franchise.
Yeah, I get in character whenever I play that game. It's
that's
fun.
funny.
That's
funny.
Yeah, I can hear him screaming Space Marine quotes over there. Anyways, though, moving along here, Tom, I feel like you got kind of left out there. You want to tell us what you've been playing this week?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is I don't have anything super, super new. I did like the Overwatch Uprising PvE.
Oh, yeah, that was, I've played that a bit. That's pretty fun. What do you think?
Yeah, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, and by that I mean myself a month ago, I would have said, jump in with the characters that you want to play as, because I think I had much more success. I know I had much more success using like Reaper and I'm trying to think. I mean, of
Reaper
the kind
is
of,
so OP because you can heal yourself from killing those like garbage Omnics.
Yeah, Reaper is really good. I'm trying to think offhand like who else I used from that. I mean, Roadhog, you can just like grab the Omnics and shoot him with a shotgun. I wouldn't use anyone but Mercy.
Sorry, it's a junk gun.
Right. Excuse me.
It's really more of a blunderbuss, actually.
Shoot him with the firearm of choice
yes.
that he uses. But no, I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't think I'd use really any of those characters that they present you with. I don't think Tracer's like optimized for the attack character. I guess.
I mean, do you think that that's on purpose because they wanted to actually be a challenge?
Yeah, the only issue is I probably missed out on loot boxes in the first go round because I was so focused on trying to get that. Like, this is just me being dumb, but like, I tried to focus on getting that one loot box you get from doing it the right way instead of like just trying to get the.
Were you having issues getting a victory even in the normal mode?
Yeah. It wasn't until I went into the other mode, and what I was more worried about.
You're the second person who said that to me, like that they had issues with the standard mode, and that just surprises me because I found it so easy. Like, I got bored in the standard mode. I have not lost a standard mode match, and I've done like 9 or 10 of them. And I'm not saying I'm super good. I just must have had better team cohesion, probably. Maybe a better healer.
So you had success, because I guess I didn't clarify this. This was like 2 podcasts ago, but that's with the combination of Tracer, Reinhardt, Torbjorn, and Mercy.
I had success with the default team as well as with custom teams. Yeah, but I played most of the game that I played of Uprising were the classic mode where you had the forced 4 characters. Yeah, I played as Tracer usually because she's fun, but
yeah. So the issue is I jumped into the mode where you get to choose your characters too early, I think, and that's before people had actually played through the whole thing and kind of knew the strategy behind it. So I got frustrated because I was like, okay, if I had to choose Reaper, we need a healer. Like, if you have Soldier 76, for example, you probably could do it without one. Mm-hmm. It's a little tough.
You're saying it does still need to be a base level of composition going on?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing is, so I went back to what they gave you, assuming that was optimized for the mode, and it wasn't. It's just, that's, I think, probably the best for the story.
No, yeah, if anything, I'd say it's one of the worst possible team setups. I mean, you have a healer, but you have like one of the worst DPSs in the game in Tracer, and then Reinhardt's good but stationary in a match where enemies are coming from every direction.
Yeah,
like
we always got killed like right before. I mean, this is like early on, right before you the payload takes off, which is like I think that's the first like hard point in that game. Although it's not like it's probably halfway through the mission. And actually, I was super surprised, and the people I was playing with could tell because I was on my mic. Like when you took the payload to the thing, and you had to blow through to get
the door explodes.
And I was like, "Oh, there's more to this." And they're like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, I haven't even like gotten."
Look
to
at this
point.
scrub ass motherfucking ass. Like
we got it the first time, but that's because again I was Reaper, and then I found Zenyatta was really good because Zenyatta has the healing qualities, but you can also take out Omnix just by throwing whatever the orbs.
He's throwing his balls around.
Yeah, throwing his balls around.
Really, a lot of characters play really well there. Lucio's really, really good too. Pretty much all the healers do well. Ana's okay. She's a little worse because she needs direct line of sight to heal. But
yeah, I didn't see a lot of Ana's. I'm trying to think. It's just like once I got away from the standard 4 characters, I got a lot of loot boxes and had fun with it.
There's just so many. I feel like I'm cheating sometimes with Uprising because you just get so many loot boxes so fast, so easily.
Yeah.
I got bored with it.
And I honestly had a little more trouble than you did, I think. What it went from is like I then was consistently like there would be a couple teams I'd be on where people just didn't know what to do when you were trying to take the payload, like get it moving. Mm-hmm. And then there's a handful of people who would just mess up the very last part where you have two like Arizas sitting there that you have to take out, and people would just jump right in and like, or what they do is like if 2 people are down, I just tell them like kill their Arizas, you're fine, like the thing ends. And I don't think they figured that out. They were like, oh, I have to heal these 2 other people.
That sucks. I guess I just got really lucky then because I honestly wasn't even paying attention most of the time. I was just shooting Omnix.
Yeah, I mean, so my hope for this is that they follow a similar template, that they like kind of put you in a somewhat new environment. I know they just took. It's just Kings Road during the day, but that they open it up, unlike the other mode.
Don't forget there's wheeled trucks.
What now?
Wheeled trucks.
Yeah, the wheeled trucks threw over for a loop. No, but seriously, like the Drunkenstein was fun. It would have been fun to do that mode with different characters. So I hope they build off what they've done, and
it'd be nice to see this on some more maps for sure.
I'd like to see like this as a standard mode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they don't. They should make this available all the time. I mean, I think
it is now. Well, it is right through the private matches or custom matches.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
It'd be nice if it was promoted and stuff like the arcade as a primary arcade mode.
Did you try harder modes? Like, given that you were having so much success?
Yeah, I tried the easiest, the medium, and the hard difficulty. I think there's 4 difficulty modes.
Yeah,
if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
there were 4. And
I was able to beat the first 2. I didn't lose the first 2 at all. The third one I died on like 3 times, but then we beat. Mm-hmm. And that's all of them.
Okay. I
didn't try the 4th mode because I'm not, I didn't seem that fun to me because all you're doing when you increase those modes is increasing the enemy health pool and stuff, and that just gets irritating.
That was my question, is if there was like another aspect to it, but yeah, I mean, it's going in the right direction. I want to see more of it. I still think the core game is probably, for me, the 6-on-6 or the 3-on-3. Like, that's what I'll probably play from here on out. But I want to see more PvE. I don't think it takes away from the game. I think it still felt like Overwatch to me.
No, it felt great in my opinion, and it definitely made me play when I was not really feeling... I wasn't really looking for a traditional multiplayer FPS this week, but I was still willing to play Uprising because at least it's PvE.
Yeah, I hope they do more of that. I think it's, the other thing too is I heard an interview with the guy who does like the storyline behind it, and he didn't come out and say it, but it sounds like he wants kind of more work, right? He wants to kind of add in the story beyond just kind of the lore, and this is a great way to do it. So, yeah, I hope to kind of see more of this going forward.
For sure, me too. All right, well, I guess it's my turn here, and I definitely played a new release this week. Different from the others we've discussed, and it was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Switch. And this is my first Mario Kart game that I have owned since Double Dash on the GameCube, and it has not changed that much. I mean, it has, in very good ways, but the core of the game is still that great, solid, Mario Kart multiplayer. I'm a huge fan of the kind of movement systems. You guys know I don't really like driving games in general or racing games in general, but I feel like kart battlers are sort of a genre unto themselves. Brandon, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but...
No, it's the beauty of those games is that they're, first of all, they're just downright fun.
They're fun and they're arcadey. I mean, it's about timing boosts and like doing slots. When you what do we call it? When you drift in these, you like get speed boosts and stuff like that.
So it's downright fun. It's simple and it can appeal to like virtually an infinite audience.
Yes,
because everybody at some point will like to go a little fast and then blow things up. In a cutesy-pootsy kind of way. And that's kind of what this game is. So it has a good balance between, like, okay, I'm taking this seriously, but also at the same time you can have somebody who probably never played this type of game before.
Right. Or like me, who may not even like racing.
Race. Yeah. Because you can go in and do a 4-race circuit, and by the end of it, even if an individual has never played it before, you'll be competitive toward the end, and you definitely will be having fun.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of game that's much more accessible and easy to pick up, although I will say I think it does have a pretty high skill ceiling. But since it's a game that features a lot of rubber banding, you don't have to worry too much if your buddy's way better than you, because the game will assist you in catching up. Go ahead.
What did they add in with Deluxe? I mean, is it just better graphics?
I didn't play 8, but because I didn't own a Wii U. But my understanding is that they added in. It's all the same courses, but basically all the characters are unlocked. They have a couple of new characters. They have a couple of new carts, and I think they added in some new amiibo support as well. And then obviously it definitely has a graphical update. It looks a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, by and large, it's Mario Kart for the Switch. I honestly can't say. There may be some more additions, but like I said, I didn't play the original. That said, it feels fully featured as hell to me. I mean, it's got probably, I'd say, 36 or 40 playable characters. It's got tons of different carts, wheels, and gliders to choose from. It has, I think, like 24 course circuits, all with unique courses. It's a huge game. There's a lot of content there, and I'm really having a ton of fun with it. It's felt very welcoming to someone who is kind of an old fogey when it comes to the series. And I've missed three or four titles, so coming back to it, it was very easy for me to pick it up and get right back in, which I appreciated. Also,
you think you're bad, man. I didn't play a kart racer since Crash CTR.
Yeah, exactly. But you picked it up real quick.
Well, yeah, it's the beauty of this whole concept. It's the same, but it's so much better.
Right. And actually, that kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about next, which is this may be the best proof of concept for the Switch to date. I have now had 2 experiences where I've been playing the game in my bedroom, just kind of on my computer monitor on my own, and a friend will come by, or Brandon will poke his head in, and I'll say, hey, you want to play together? And I can literally take my Switch controller, split it in half, give one side to my buddy, and turn the other 90 degrees for myself, and you can play with just the split in half controllers, split screen local, which is super easy to do. The controllers are actually really not that bad. I don't know why everyone's being so melodramatic about them.
I was going to ask about that.
Well,
go ahead.
There were ups and downs. So the ups were, I thought I would have cramping. No cramping. I thought I would have issues like with inputs, like timing and stuff. No issues with input timing or anything like that. What we did have some problems with were connectivity. The angle Brandon was at and just slightly how far away he was from me, he was having some issues getting it to pick up him, like, doing right turns on the analog stick. Though I think that has more to do with the fact that there was about 100 Mountain Dew cans surrounding my console, which may have been interfering with Bluetooth signal. But yeah, so
not a good look, man.
Yeah, exactly. So to fix that, we went ahead and went out and I picked up a Pro controller this week, and since which I'll talk about in a little bit here, but since I started using that, I haven't had any connectivity issues at all. Overall, highly recommended. Even if you're just a passing fan of Mario Kart, this is probably this is up there with Zelda for games that are just incredible on the Switch. Highly recommend it. It's even got great features like split-screen multiplayer and stuff like that. So, Oh, and they brought back Versus Battle. If you played Mario Kart 64 and you always loved the battle modes, guess what? They're back in this, and they're great. So yeah, check it out. I highly recommend picking it up if you have a Switch.
Nice. Actually, why don't you, since we're on the topic, why don't we talk about that controller?
Yeah, sure. I went ahead and went out to my local GameStop, and they finally had the Pro controller in stock.
After like 4 months.
Exactly, longer. 4 months, I guess not. But it's been forever, it feels like, 2 months at least. And we finally got our hands on a $70 controller, and I gotta say, I like it. I'm not in love with it, but I like it. So first up, the price tag, $70 is really steep for a controller. I'm not going to lie. I also kind of balked at it, although it is pretty much in line with Sony and Microsoft's prices right now for consoles. I think that the majority of that $70 price tag for me was made up for by the fact that the controller is wireless and charges with a USB-C charger, which is the same cable that the Switch itself charges with. So what this has really done is kind of saved me. I was going to buy another Switch charger anyways, since it's ostensibly a portable system. But if you want to charge it on the road, you have to actually unwire everything from the dock. So now I can have one wireless charger for when I'm out and about, and one that permanently sits with my system. So that made up some of the value of that $70. Ooh, excuse me, that $70 to me. But all the same, it still feels, pretty steep. That said,
I was going to say, it's kind of steep, but it is on par with.
It seems steep to me with the other consoles too.
Really, because a new Xbox One controller is around the same price.
Yeah, and I think that that's more than a controller should be. Personally, I think controllers should be like $40, $50. I think that's a lot of money for these accessories. Yeah,
because even the standard PlayStation 4 controller is about $70, $80.
Man, a 3DS is $200. Yes, I think it's a bit pricey for a controller.
Does it feel like an Xbox controller?
No, not even remotely. It's nothing like one. I thought it was supposed to be like one. It's not. Maybe in the button layouts, but no, it's more like kind of the Steam controller is what I'd say it feels the most like. It's a little wider. It does not. It feels almost like a third-party controller. I've not really used a controller quite like it from a first-party developer. It has really good action, though a bit sensitive in my opinion, on the analog sticks, but they work for what they are. And then the face buttons are comically large. Brandon got to see this firsthand, but I can't complain that my thumb can fit over all 4 face buttons anymore. That's for sure. They're like Genesis sized. They're just honking. But yeah, overall, it's nice. It's fast. It has good connectivity. All of the inputs feel good. Unlike on the Switch traditional controller, instead of having a D-pad that's made up of the 4 face buttons, this is a traditional plus-shaped D-pad, which is nice. It still features the HD rumble, which is nice, and it also has the NFC support for amiibos, so I can scan my amiibos on this controller. And it also has the gyro controls from the other controller too, so it's got motion control to some extent.
Good. Have you tried playing Zelda with it?
Yeah, and going back to Zelda after playing such a beautifully polished game like Mario Kart 8 was really rough with those frame rates, I'm not going to lie. But it played decently. I'm going to be honest, I never really had any issues with the original Switch controller. This is a decent upgrade, but I definitely don't feel necessarily oh yeah, I'm going to use this exclusively from now on. I know a lot of people are talking like it's the end-all be-all, but I really never had any major issues with the Joy-Con pad. But I'll use this, if it's going to be docked for an extended period. The only issue I have is it's kind of a pain in the ass to have to juggle between controllers and Switch, which is the primary one, when I do want to then use the portability function of the Switch. It's this controller is all fine and good and nice if I'm going to have it sitting for hours and hours, but if I'm planning on going out for a quick walk, or if I wanted to just step out on the porch because it's a nice day out or something, I gotta set down my Switch, clip in the Joy-Cons, switch over to that, go to controller settings, activate the Joy-Cons as the primary controller, and then I can go, which is a little bit more than just clip, stand up, walk away. That said, I like it. I wouldn't say that everyone should rush to the store to get one, but they're a solid controller. I don't have any major issues with it.
That's good to hear. Well, this is a solid purchase.
Yeah, I definitely don't regret it, but it always hurts to spend that kind of money on a single input device.
Yeah, the times have changed. I remember when they were literally $40. I'm like, oh, this is convenient.
Yeah, this is what happens when you get HD Rumble NFC support, fucking wireless control, and
Bluetooth connectivity.
Yeah, Bluetooth connectivity motion control and Bluetooth connectivity all rolled into one package. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm happy because I got the USB-C charger.
Yeah, that's super dope.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Tom, back to you. You want to talk about some other stuff you've been playing this week?
Yeah, I'm still drawn back to Grand Theft Auto Online, which is
good lord.
4 years. Yeah, I haven't played it a ton. I was probably playing Overwatch the most, but they have a new mode. It's not incredibly exciting. It's kind of like their other modes, where instead of, I guess, racing through the skyline of Los Angeles, you are basically you try to occupy these squares. So literally, as your character touches on them, you get a certain amount, and then I think after 5 different time periods, basically the team that has one time period will go. It'll be like, okay, this team has more squares than the other one. It'll reset. Then you'll have another time period. And
I'm going to be honest with you right now. I have no idea what you're trying to say. Is this like Splatoon, where you're painting the ground with your team's colors, and whoever has the most of that color wins?
Sort of, except instead of I haven't played Splatoon, but I assume you're shooting at the ground. There, you're it's literally just the space you occupy becomes your own.
And I'm assuming what you're saying is, if I drive in a straight line over a whole bunch of unclaimed squares, let's say, as you drive over them, they all change to your color and stay that color till another team drives over them.
Yeah, and your feet on the ground, so it's not driving. Yeah,
okay, gotcha. Yeah. So running. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a territory thing, and whoever has the most territory, I think it's after 30 seconds or a minute or something, that team gets a point, and then it resets, and then I don't know. It's hard to explain, and it's not that exciting.
The game modes are really getting out there now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the last...
Yeah, because they had that Hot Wheels one, which I thought was super cool.
They've done a bunch of really cool ones, but it kind of started to feel, the last update or two, it started to feel like they've been running out of steam a little bit. Maybe running out of ideas, or just
Maybe they should finally get around to that story DLC that they've been talking about.
Wait, is there supposed to be story DLC for GTA Online or GTA 5?
It wasn't coming. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Well, there've been inklings here and there over the course of the last 5 years.
It's been 7 years. Yeah, this game is ancient.
It doesn't feel like it.
It's a 2013 game, I think. Yeah,
4 years.
Yeah, no, so I guess on one hand it brought me back. On the other hand, I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously not playing it as much as I used to. I'd rather play Overwatch. It does take a while to load. You guys on PC maybe isn't as bad, but
it's still pretty bad.
It takes time.
Okay.
Yeah. Comparing to something like Overwatch, it's a goddamn joke because Overwatch takes me about 30 seconds to get into the game.
Yeah, even me on my computer, I just blink and get killed.
Yeah, you would have loved it last week. I was bitching about matchmaking and load times in what was it? PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Tom, and I feel like you would have appreciated it. I was pissed off because I was it takes 30 seconds to find a game, and then it takes a minute of sitting in the lobby before you get into the match.
Yeah,
I was really upset about that on PC.
I mean, I'm a big fan of GTA Online, and I think they did a good job with that game in general. To be fair, it's feeling like it's run its course a little bit. And,
I mean, the matchmaking may be dropping off too because the player count's probably a lot lower than when people first started playing it.
It has to be just a sizable, dedicated fan base because I can't imagine they're drawing a lot of new people.
Yeah, all that's left is the hackers and the people who have money that was given to them by hackers.
Right. No, and the kind of along those lines, except playing fair, I think the only thing that would bring me back is if they announce another Grand Theft Auto and they're by the way, we're gonna your character carries over and we're gonna give you a whole bunch of opportunity to get RP and money.
You know what mine would be? I wouldn't even need it to carry over. Mine would just be hey, we want people to actually play this still, so we're going to rebalance the economy for online because now we've fixed the cheating problem, and it's not really fair to punish new players with ridiculously, outlandishly high prices for basic DLC content just because the economy got broken 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if I'm being a realist here, I think they're just going to balance the economy like when the new game comes out, right? I mean, I feel like
because when the new game comes out, I don't think GTA Online is going to continue. I think there will be a new GTA Online if they decide to do that again.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that part of it's been a bummer, and to be honest, it's probably why I don't play as much as I would otherwise.
That's my thing, is I'm not going to fucking play a game that I'm only dipping my head back into to check out what's changed for fucking 12 hours to unlock a warehouse to start checking out the new content. It's ridiculous. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. That's literally what happened to me with the Lost, the Lost and Damned DLC, or that was GTA 4, but the Biker Gang DLC, I jumped in, was like, oh shit, this looks awesome. It was like, okay, I'm going to spend all my money on a motorcycle here, and yeah, I got a motorcycle, and then it was like, you need to purchase a $350,000 warehouse to host your Biker Gang out of. And I was like, oh, I have $1,500.
Yeah,
And then I played it for about a week to try and get the money, never even made it that far, and then quit.
Yeah, I mean, I have enough to, like, have fun, but it doesn't, like, I will never unlock most of the stuff in that game. Because,
that's the thing, is you should be able, if I'm going to put as much time into the online as I put into the single player, I expect to be able to reap reasonably similar rewards.
Yeah, one thing I'd like, I don't even know if you could do it with the current kind of, like, game they have, but I did like the idea of kind of the cooperative, in the sense that, like, in the one player...
So you're talking about the heists.
Yeah, I like the heist, and I feel like they could have done a little more with that.
I think the heists were just poorly implemented. I think the issue was it required too much of a time commitment from too many people, and it was too dependent on everyone succeeding. Like, I understand making it so that, one person can't win the heist for everyone every time, but they made it... There were too many cases where, like, one person was driving a car at the very end of a heist, and if they... hit like a roadblock and got, like, police even on them, you just all auto-fail a 4-part mission.
I completely agree, and so I wonder if you could... I think they'd have to do it in the next game, really, but I liked how in single player you could switch between 3 characters. It would be kind of fun in an online mode that you and 2 friends do that, except you're simultaneously playing together. It's not one player controlling 3.
Sure. What I'd really like to see is what we all really wanted, I think, which is... GTA Online should be an extension of the single player, not a standalone title.
I agree. I think at
the stuff I have in single player should be in GTA Online. I think there should be its own stuff in GTA Online that you can only get from doing the online stuff, but then once you get it, you can use it in the single player. Like, it should be a seamless experience. I should be able to do single-player missions cooperatively with my friends. Like, those were the things that were really missing and that hurt. It needs to be Saints Row, not some weird tacked-on online mode.
So, I agree with you, and I feel like that's not coming until they release a new game, which it seems like this one's kind of run its course a little bit.
Yeah,
except for die-hard fans.
I'm guessing we won't see the next GTA GTA announced until... I'm going to say end of 2018, early 2019. I think we still have another couple years.
Yeah, I think Red Dead has to run its course.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah,
exactly.
And then after that, we got to wait another 3 years.
Exactly. I think you're right. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll do something that surprises us all. But
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about. But these games have been coming out since before almost all of us were born, and there's only been 6 of them, including spin-offs? 7. So, they take their time with this franchise.
Makes sense, yeah.
God damn. Sorry, I keep dropping my phone. All right, now that I've broken the fourth wall, I had one more thing I just wanted to talk about briefly, and I'm really only including it because I know Tom also wanted to talk about it briefly, and that is Hearthstone. Yeah, the new expansion is really, I think, starting to come into stride. I think I kind of had similar thoughts to what Tom's going to say, which is that I'm really enjoying the meta now that things are kind of settling and we're seeing what decks are, what new card combinations are working, what are not. There's more viable deck types than there were 2 weeks ago when we had our really long discussion on it, and we're concerned about too much kind of railroading and requiring play to win. I feel like that has dropped off a lot too. I feel like there are probably more competitive decks that cost less dust than ever before. if that makes sense. Like, there's so many, like, I've seen budget Zoolock, budget Hunter, budget Priest, like, just all kinds of these budget decks that are like 2,000 dust or less, which is super affordable for even a free-to-play player. What are your thoughts on this, Tom? How's your Hearthstone experience been the last week or two?
Yeah, so I would say the Murloc Association deck I have is ridiculously cheap and really fun and very effective. It's so that's a
just so we're
Murloc.
Clear, cheap unfair, cheap dust cost.
Cheap dust cost.
Okay.
Yeah. Some might argue unfair, but it does. I would
argue against the cheap part, but that's fine. Only because as someone who doesn't have Murlocs, I'm not one of the people who built all the Murlocs in the very beginning. There's actually a fair number of epic Murlocs that you have to craft. But just throwing in my 2 cents. Like, I don't have, the one that gives all Murlocs 2/1, or I don't even have. I think the closest I have is a playset of Grimscale Oracles. So
yeah, I think you need a play set of the War Leader, which is the 2/1. That's a purple, and then you probably want Finja, but I don't think you need it.
There's a couple of others though too, aren't there?
I don't. If there are, I'd have to look at my deck when I'm done with the show. I think the only other epic I have is or legendary is the quest one, which is literally just play 10 Murlocs. And I think those are the only 2 in the deck. I'm trying to think if I have another. Like, it is a really simple deck, but you do need the War Leader, and you need the quest, and you need. You don't need Finja. I think you could do it without. It's helpful to have.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I like playing as that one. My Warlock, I gotta blow up. It's close, but it does not work.
It's too self-damaging. I have a new Warlock deck.
It is. That's fact based.
I have a new Zoolock deck that's like 2,200 dust or something. That's really nice, really brutal.
Yeah, I need to. I saw that video when you must put it on Twitter or something. I need to watch that. So yeah, I'm probably gonna rethink Warlock. I like my Dragon Priest. I figured out Pirate, but mine is not as good as yours. It is not working as effectively, so I don't know what I'm missing, but I'm missing something.
We'll put it through the old grinder here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The only thing is Rogue, and I feel like Rogue you have to have the quest. I don't know how else.
Rogue quest is good. There's a Pirate Rogue that's getting a good amount of play too.
I should try that just because I probably have enough pirates from the Warrior.
I have the Rogue quest myself because it's super awesome.
Yeah, I think if I had enough dust, I'd probably create that.
Although, I wanted to note, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing way less quest decks. Like, it seems like at least half of the classes have just abandoned their quest card.
The only ones that are effective, so I have a beast that without the quest, I think the quest would help it.
It seems like hunters don't always go for it, but sometimes. I'd say it's priest, mage, it's priest, mage, rogue, warrior are really the 4 that you see.
What is the priest one? I don't even know what.
It's the death rattle minions.
Oh,
then when it triggers, you get a 5 mana 8/8 that sets your health to 40.
I've seen that once. I literally have not seen that.
That's actually pretty common. It's the elemental quest priest. Although it's possible we were seeing slightly different deck types because I was at rank like 11 at the end of last season. So we may, like, depending on if you were higher up in the ranks, you may have seen maybe a little more variety.
Last season I did not do well. I ended up at like 17.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is I might have been seeing some more refined and consistent smaller group of decks, because that is one big problem I have with getting up in the ranks in Hearthstone is you start seeing like 5 decks that are performing really good that season.
What are the mage? What's the mage one?
Mage is the one you play a certain number of cards. I think it's 8 cards that didn't start in your deck.
Oh,
so you have to use like discover and stuff.
I have a good mage deck that quest would not work for. So
yeah, I don't really. I mean, I like that mage. I actually like the mage quest. I'm kind of pissed. I was doing a live stream last Friday and started out the episode going, "Oh, I have 100 gold. Let's go ahead and open up a pack." And I opened up a pack, and lo and behold, I got my first ever non-real-life money spent legendary from a pack.
What?
Yes, it was the Druid Quest legendary. And I went ahead and did some research, and it is not used by anyone anywhere.
Yeah, my Druid is literally just a zoo deck that works fine.
Yep, Druid, I have a good Druid deck. It ain't no Quest Druid. Druid Quest is trash. There's a couple different class quests that I just don't even see played. Warlock is another one. What is it? You have to discard a certain number of cards.
My guess is there's a deck that, like a very aggro deck that works for that.
Well, you say that works for that, but like if it's not in the top, if it's not in the top 10 decks that are being played, then it doesn't work, in my opinion. You can force it to work, but that doesn't work,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The best one I think is the Rogue one, but the problem is I think I'm going to try the Pirates, but my Rogue.
I'd say Rogue, like if you're going to do a quest, do Rogue, then Priest, then Mage, then Hunter.
Honestly, just do the Shaman one. The Shaman one with Murlocs, if you have Murlocs, is so easy.
I don't see anybody doing that. I see a fair number of Murlocs, but I'm almost never seeing the actual Murloc quest.
That's crazy. So what it does is if you play 10 Murlocs, which I usually get to like really quickly, you get like I can't remember what the actual card is, like a relatively powerful card, but more importantly, once you play it, it's a 5-mana card. You fill your hand with Murlocs. Like it works really well for me, but maybe in the upper ranks it would not be great. In most through the lower ranks.
I guess I don't know. I don't think I've run into one in my last 25 games.
You'll see one today after the show.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I'll see you on the field, bro.
By the way, it's Megafin, and he's a 5-mana 8/8 that fills your hand with random Murlocs.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's because if your hand's not empty, it's not very good. I really don't know. Or maybe it's because Murlocs in general aren't very good, so handful of Murlocs is probably not that good.
What you have to do is you have to get the Shaman. You have to have a play set of the Shaman card that puts down 4 Murlocs on the board. It gets you there quick. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see.
What is that? Every Fin is awesome or whatever.
It's not in there anymore. That's not standard anymore.
Oh,
yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Didn't that give like all Murlocs 2/2 or something?
No. Oh, maybe every Fin is awesome. No, I'm trying to remember if that was in there. I don't have it in that set though. So
whatever.
Isn't.
Anyways, though, yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'm getting around to is that I feel like Hearthstone has done, without them actually making any changes, best as I can tell, the meta has settled into something much more approachable than people were first thinking.
Yeah, I like it. I actually like it a lot.
Yeah, me too. I think I have 7 viable decks now, as opposed to the 1 I had last time we talked, and I'd say not all of them are on par. I'd say at least 2 of them are on par with the Pirate Warrior, and besides that, like, they're just fun to play. It feels very much like the game is becoming more of a traditional Magic the Gathering style card game where you're getting token decks and you're getting a lot of cards that are all minions you control get 1/1 or all creatures of this type decks, or just I feel like the game is finally getting enough cards in the collection and enough different ability types that it's really coming into its own as a card game where you can pull random combos that were not intended originally that break the game in really fun ways.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think of. I mean, someone's going to figure out some way to crush it. But yeah, I saw an interview. It was on Clixel with the guy who tries to balance this stuff, and he's making his money. I mean, he's earning his money right now.
I'm sure.
And they're doing good work, so I'm excited.
Definitely. For now, though, we're going to take a quick break just because we're an hour into the show, and then we'll be back for one more game from Brandon before we go into the news. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. Okay, so really quick before we go into news, Brandon, I think there was a new horror title you wanted to touch on briefly before we go on.
Yeah, so I got a chance to play Little Nightmares. That released on Friday of last week, and I like it a lot, but at the same time, it's in the same vein as Limbo and their new latest release, which was Inside.
Yeah. Is this by the same developers as Inside and Limbo?
No, it's a different developer, and the animation is strikingly different as well. So Little Nightmares is a 3D side scroller. So it's kind of like the side scrolling that you see in 2D games, but you have depth, and you actually use that depth while you navigate through it. But it does kind of wear its influences on its shirt. It definitely has the feeling of Inside, in the sense, we're in this creepy environment. There's some scary bits.
It's much more atmospheric horror than traditional horror.
Yep. So you start the game basically waking up in a open suitcase, and you're a little child wearing a raincoat. And the whole goal of the game, I would assume, is to get out of wherever the hell you are. And where you are is ambiguous unless you watch the trailer. So I'm just going to assume you're in an underground bunker-esque facility full of really creepy dudes.
It looks really cool. It's got a kind of Tim Burton claymation-y style.
Yeah, it's the visuals do really good. The theme here, which I like a lot, is these are things that you would find scary as a child, and it seems like this whole game is played out through a child's dream. And I say that due to the characterizations of NPCs that you see in the game, all the way down from like the small like rats and leeches all the way up to like the actual big ones that can actually harm you.
Mm-hmm.
When you play the game, the visuals in your immediate vicinity, like things you can interact with and things that are like relatively close to you in the environments that you explore, look normal. Like a chair looks normal, but things that are in the background that are spaced out on the walls and on the ceiling tend to be just heavily distorted. So there'd be a room with a chair that you can interact with to open a door, but behind you there'd be another chair that's like against the wall and its legs are like stretched and misshapen and bendy.
Yeah, it's almost like everything is like pulled vertically, sort of.
Yeah, and then sometimes horizontally. It's super interesting, and it's also affects the NPCs as well. The claymation really gives it this super greasy, grungy vibe. Like wherever you are, it's super dirty and it's ill. It's just like it has like that icky horror to it,
Yeah, it really does remind me of Tim Burton a lot in a good way.
But the game actually does have a couple of good jump scares. They make very good use of the 2D side scrolling to interact with your visual and with your visual senses very well, which actually makes you feel like you're very much part of the game. This is a game that's heavily experience based. It does have like effectively the same type of platforming elements that you would see in, say, Inside, where you're trying to solve simple puzzles. With added on to the fact that you have scripted NPCs that are definitely looking for you to do things to you. I don't know. I'm just going to assume they're going to eat you. That's my only assumption after playing.
I mean, they're going to do whatever it is that children are afraid that scary adults will do in a nightmare. It's just like the vague, they'll get you. I'm sure.
So it's a fun game. I like it a lot. I like the control scheme particularly. When you want to hold things, you actually have to hold it. It's not just click button to pick up. It's I gotta hold this, and if I let go of the button, I'm gonna drop it, which adds another level of like immersion to you because you have to like carry things while you're getting chased to try to fix this puzzle. And I'm like, oh god, oh I dropped it. Oh, I gotta go pick it up.
I've heard a lot about that mechanic. How does that play out? Is that frustrating, or is it mostly like, does it feel like, oh, this is just like a fun little puzzle thing I'm going to do really quick? Or is it like, because don't enemies like regenerate kind of in this game?
Not really. They're just heavily scripted.
Okay, so you don't have to worry too much about having like dropping stuff repeatedly or anything like that?
As long as you hold the button, you should be good.
Okay, cool.
Unless it's a scripted event. Like when they were talking about it early on with some of the footage, this was kind of one of my minor disappointments. They were talking about like a hunger feature where you have to like survive effectively, a small hunger mechanic, I guess for survival per se, but that's also scripted. So that is usually used to progress the story, which I have a problem with. Not because it's not good, but it's because it's playing out like Inside in Limbo in the sense that, oh, it's up to your imagination. And I'm like, come on, give me a little reference. So I have the same constructive criticism that I gave Inside as well as Limbo in that sense.
It definitely seems like it's more of a slow-paced one as well.
Yeah, you can speedrun this game in a couple of hours definitively, but
I don't mean a short game. I just mean it seems like the pacing is very gradual.
Yeah, but yeah, the way that they've organized the game makes it so that you take your time and you're methodical about what you do. This game really lends itself well to its sound. The sound does a really good job of making this game absolutely terrifying at some points. Toward the end, when you're fighting, like, when you actually have, like, the equivalent of a boss fight.
Oh, God.
Which is super interesting. I was getting creeped out because of, like, you can hear, if you have omnidirectional headphones, oh, man, it can be terrifying. But at the same time, because of how scripted this game is, ultimately, once you beat it, you're not going to really come back. There's some collectibles you can get in the game, but they're not really something I would go back for after beating it. Ultimately, this is, if you want a interactive, like, pseudo horror experience, because it's not like, if you're into horror, I don't think you're going to find this particularly scary.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing Outlast and loving it, this game is going to be like, oh, okay.
It's more artsy horror, right? Like, it's not like it's not traditional horror. It's atmospheric, like I said earlier.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
More of an art piece.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that really does set it out, because I've never seen a game with this type of animation or art style, and that's really what sets it off. That and sound really make it super cool. Ultimately, though, I don't really see much replayability in this game because of how scripted it is.
How much did it run you?
It's only $20, which isn't bad, because what I paid for I liked. But at the same time, I would probably suggest getting it on the sale for maybe half the price.
Sure.
Simply because this isn't a game you're going to come back to multiple times.
And
you're
it's
going to
not
play it
very
once
long
and be
in
like,
the
oh,
first
this
place.
is great. Yeah, it's no Abzu in that sense, because I'll go back and play Abzu just for the sheer experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Gotcha.
But this one is, you get in, you play it, and you might come back to it after a couple years.
Sure.
Like, oh, I remember this game. Let me see how it was again. It's kind of how I think it will go. But I think it's good. I think they did good on this game. It's definitely more fun than I got more enjoyment out of it than Warhammer, ironically enough, as much as I'm a fan of that, like, universe.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's a pretty ringing endorsement, actually, from you.
Yeah, so if you had a choice, if you had $60, you had to choose between the two, I would say I would really say, ultimately, between the games I played this week, I would say get Little Nightmares, and then there's better, cheaper RTSs that you can get and that's only if you're just really, really one of those guys that's going to turn your nose to StarCraft 2.
Yeah, and this is a Sega game, so you know that Dawn of War will be on sale in the not-too-distant future in some crazy Steam sale.
Yeah, that being said, my opinion still stands. Like, even if it is on sale, unless it's, like, seriously discounted, wait till there's a couple of DLC.
Sure. Cool. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up what we've been playing this week. We are running a little short on time, so let's jump right into the news here. And the first story on the docket is a pretty interesting one that we've been hearing about a lot if you've been paying attention to sort of social media and stuff over the last few weeks, but has finally sort of reared its head specifically with the gaming scene, where you guys may have heard that there was a pretty major advertising snafu on YouTube about a month ago, where a bunch of racist videos were outed as running ads from major advertisers such as Coca-Cola and stuff like that, and there was a major advertising pull from YouTube where advertisers basically stopped spending with YouTube temporarily until they could get guarantees on the type of content that their ads would be running on. YouTube has, in the intervening weeks, made some changes to their system, basically adding in some additional content types and different types of flags you can put on content, like inappropriate language, shocking, horror, sexual, explicit content, that kind of stuff. And then advertisers can now choose to opt out of those types of videos. This has led to a lot of YouTubers making complaints that their videos aren't being monetized anymore, that they have videos that are technically monetized, but they're not having any ads that are worth anything running on them, so they're making way less money on them. But for the most part, this has been kind of limited to more controversial channel types on YouTube, maybe like religious or drama-based channels. Things have changed a little bit now with the the announcement of Call of Duty World War II, however. As YouTubers have begun complaining that revenue has been plummeting on videos featuring Call of Duty World War II because of its World War II connotations. This is pretty interesting, I think. I'm curious what you guys' thoughts on this, but basically what they're saying is because YouTube's algorithms don't differentiate between real and fake wars properly, whether it be because of the quality of gaming footage at this point or simply because there aren't separate categories for it. People are saying they don't want to make Call of Duty World War II videos because they aren't going to be able to make any money on them because of the war connotations. What do you guys think about this?
It's a toughie because ultimately, if you're a company that wants to advertise, it's your right to choose what you want to advertise on. However, at the same time, in this particular case, in terms of Call of Duty originally was effectively kind of like a historic shooter, and then kind of moved into kind of your cookie cutter shooter. And now it seems like they're trying to push back, but people's views have changed over the course of like this game's life, and all the way up till now, it's been fine. Everybody has had this understanding per se. It's like, oh, this is a video game. This is popular. People are going to be looking at this. This is a great idea to advertise on for multiple things, whether it be internet or food or drink products. But now, since this recent outing, I actually read a couple of WSJ articles, Wall Street Journal articles on this. Has severely altered the perspective that advertisers or companies that want to advertise on YouTube, their perspective has been changed very quickly, and nothing has been able to catch up. Which
I'm both understand and am baffled by, because here's my thing. Like, I totally respect the idea of advertisers not wanting... Well, them having the right to pick and choose what kind of ads or what kind of videos their ads are run on. I understand they have the right to choose, especially because they're spending money to advertise.
Right.
That said, what I don't understand is, look, you may disagree with someone's viewpoints and stuff, but like, what, do you not want their viewers to buy your product? Like, especially confusing to me with like Coca-Cola and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, Coca-Cola ran an ad on this racist video, and it's like Coca-Cola doesn't run ads on racist videos. And I'm like, well, racists buy Coca-Cola. Like, what?
I mean, it is kind of brand association. And I can only really speak for
Have you ever watched a YouTube video and seen the pre-scroll ad and gone, I didn't realize that YouTuber supported Chevy?
No.
I get exactly where you're coming from, and I
feel like this is an old media thing where, like, I agree that you have the right to choose where you spend your money for advertising. I don't understand the concept of being upset when your advertising runs on a heavily viewed video featuring content that you disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, the issues we've run into it just with zone coverage in general is that like a lot of this stuff is automated. So as
YouTube is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so for example, yesterday, one of the Twins pitchers, who's from Stillwater, came out and talked about his injury. And I literally just wanted a video of him describing his injury because he's pointing at different parts on his arm or whatever. And because they were playing music in the clubhouse that is not allowed on YouTube, it got shut down. So, like,
Right. And that's a more traditional example. Like, that's almost a more reasonable example. I mean, you have to remember a lot of these YouTubers and stuff that are complaining about this in more recent cases are actually alleging that it's individuals who are flagging their videos.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, that's a whole different problem.
But this has been a very recent trend.
Yeah, because YouTube has actually formed a new group solely dedicated to categorizing videos by, like, explicit, shocking,
it's like the YouTube
racist,
Heroes program, in case you're wondering.
It's not YouTube Heroes. It's actual YouTube employees, actually, in this case. Because they've been panicking because they lost, like, it's like $1 billion in revenue or something from the advertiser pullout.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, this is a little different, but, like, with our Google ads, we have to be clear, like, what our content is, because there's people that didn't want to advertise on fake news, for example, and zone coverage is not as well known as, say, the Star Tribune or ESPN, right? So I mean, like there's it's something that like I think as the internet grows, it's we're all kind of learning on the run here.
Definitely, but I feel like the onus right now should be on the people who are cutting content off at the legs. I mean, I can say that a couple of episodes of this podcast have been demonetized on YouTube, and that's outside of one Doom video I've ever made, the only content I've ever had flagged for demonetization or flagged for copyright has been this show, which is the only content I do that features absolutely no outside content at all. Like it shocks me. I had last week's World War II video was not flagged, but let me look really quick and see if I can remember which video it was that was. I think it was the week before that's episode.
Yeah, I mean, while you're doing that, I look at kind of the tweets included in the article, and some people say, like, thank God I don't depend on this website to survive. I mean, I understand, like, if you're in entertainment in any capacity, you're fortunate, but some of these people have probably worked a while, and probably are happy to give up the job, bagging groceries or whatever, give up the Uber that they had to drive or whatever to make ends meet. And it just sucks that all of a sudden you see, 15 cent CPM, like, I don't know what YouTube's are, but like on an article, you're supposed to get like 10 to 12.
I've seen another example of this
15 cent CPM is, they were saying, 10 to 20 times lower than normal for them.
Yeah.
I've seen another similar example to this in I think a New York Times article. And I think because we've seen a recent trend of if somebody has an opinion or somebody or a group of people immediately view something and have a fiery reaction to it, like, for example, in this case, the videos that were contested as being racist, and then all of a sudden you just see this fiery backlash, and everybody's like, oh, this is terrible. And then all of a sudden advertisers react immediately. They said, okay, we're pulling everything gone. The knee-jerk reaction is becoming like quite a regular thing.
Yeah, it's honestly becoming kind of tiring, but it's scary seeing it with millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, and that's affecting YouTubers' lives. I remember reading an article earlier this week in reference to, just off topic, it was just climate change, and somebody had a view in reference to how climate change is displayed or explained to people, just regular people. And then people just got super mad and said, oh, climate change is real. It's like, but that wasn't the point of the argument. And then they started boycotting New York Times because they received the article.
Yeah, they hired a Wall Street Journal columnist.
Yeah,
sure.
It was super weird because...
Point being, people are just shutting out opinions that they disagree with.
Yeah, and then,
this is a meta conversation that would take forever to get through.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even really want to get into it. But yes, you're right. It is problematic.
Exactly. That reaction, I think, is really starting to show on YouTube, where you have people who, we have advertisers that just, at the mere inkling of a fiery issue being, spurring up, they just immediately drop shit.
I think the issue here, though, isn't the overreaction by advertisers. The issue here is the shitty clampdown that YouTube is doing. I mean, here's an example for you. Thunder at Thunder S7 Ruck on Twitter was quoted as saying his views were up 53% last month, but his revenue was down 49%. So that's an issue with YouTube, not necessarily an issue with, the social movement or whatever, this reactionary culture that we live in. It's really an issue of, like, YouTube overreacted hard to try and bring back advertiser faith, and there's a lot of little guys getting screwed, like people trying to make Call of Duty World War II videos who are, I'm pretty sure, being blanketed under the same as people making videos about World War II.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, like knee-jerk reactions with effectively half-ass solutions.
Yeah, and YouTube is the king of that. Let's just throw in another automated system that everyone has to work around. I'm hoping that we see less of this. I haven't been affected too heavily personally by this. I had 2 episodes of this show demonetized and one of my own videos demonetized, all randomly. I appealed them all. Everything except for one of the episodes of our show has been remonetized. The one that was demonetized doesn't seem to have any bearing on, it was one from 2 weeks ago. I can't find anything controversial or anything about the title, so I'm not really sure what it is that was flagged as bad about it, but case in point that they just go for everybody. It's not even people with 100,000 views or people who have, really racist titles. It's everyone is getting hit with this really wide-reaching, but very indiscriminate hammer.
Yep, they just whipped out the mallet and just started hammering things.
Yeah.
Said,
anyways,
we're fixing it. We're fixing it, guys. Come back.
Exactly. Anyways, we got to move along here, but this is definitely something that we'll keep our finger on the pulse of. We're kind of involved in this one way or another, so we'll let you guys know as changes continue, and hopefully we'll get everything all sorted out in the not too distant future. For now, though, let's move on to a couple of announcements. First up, we have Paladins, the definitely not an Overwatch clone, you guys. Seriously. First-person shooter is getting an open beta on consoles right now. So if you have a Xbox One or PS4, you can go jump on your respective network and download the open beta to check out the game for yourself.
I mean, I'm looking at pictures of this, and I'm just like, man.
This game is really a poor man's Overwatch. I don't care what anyone says. I've played it. It's okay. If you can't afford Overwatch, check it out maybe. But if you have Overwatch, I doubt you need another hero shooter in your life. But just wanted to bring it to your attention because it's free.
Oh, I think it's, I guess, either the poor man's Overwatch or that edgelord that you live next door to who just doesn't want to be part of the...
I guess, but I mean, edgelords all want to play Reaper. Anyways,
I'm talking about like the next tier, bro.
Just wanted to touch on that really quick. Then next after that, we have an announcement that I'm actually pretty excited about. Darksiders 3 was leaked by Amazon this week and has since been confirmed by IGN with their early access release.
Yeah, I actually saw a trailer for this morning on YouTube as a commercial, and I'm like, this is unexpected.
Yep.
And then I see the news about it leaking, and I'm like, oh, see, you got to admit, THQ was on that.
Yeah, shut up for a sec. So, for those who are wondering, yeah, we're doing another Darksiders. Like, THQ no longer exists, but they are continuing the franchise, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it seems they have it listed as like THQ Nordic or something.
Yeah. So. And maybe this is me with my tin hat on, but like they released Darksiders 2 on Games for Gold about a year ago, and then just recently did Darksiders 1, and I think allowed you to get 2. Do you think this leak maybe was a little bit on purpose?
No.
Okay.
Only because they have been putting Darksiders 1 and 2 basically for free on Steam every other week since they were released. That Darksiders just does really good sales a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a solid game, man. Both of them.
They're really good. They're Zelda meets God of War, and I can't recommend them more, actually. I really enjoy the first one. Second one, a little less, but I still enjoy it. I'm excited for this third one. Looks like we're going to have a female protagonist, which I'm into, who is using a sweet-ass, whip, chain whip thing, which is totally dope. It looks really pretty. It looks like we're going to see some of the creatures and characters, the Titan-like characters from Darksiders 2. And we're seeing some more of that overgrown, New York City style stuff. So think Horizon type setting. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for this. We'll keep you guys posted as more info comes out. But for now, that's pretty much all we know. I don't think we even have a solid release date yet.
Yeah, sometime in 2018.
Exactly. But yeah, we bring you guys all the leaks, especially for series that we are fans of.
Yeah.
Next up, we have another announcement. This one is Nintendo just did a Nintendo Direct recently, and they announced some additional detail on the first Breath of the Wild DLC for the new Zelda game. I'm pretty excited about this. There's some really sweet new stuff. In particular, I'm excited about some of the new cosmetic items. They're adding in a bunch of new armor, including Majora's Mask. Oh, shit. Tingle's outfit. Oh, damn. You can get Midna's helmet, which you guys know is sweet. The Phantom armor, which is what the Darknuts wear in some of the newer Zelda games. And the Korok mask, which actually has a special feature that people may be interested in. It makes your controller vibrate when you are near a Korok, which helps you find those 900 seeds that we discussed earlier.
That job somehow managed to find all of we talked about a couple months back.
Yeah, exactly.
You did get poo out of it, though. So
yes, a golden poo.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty solid.
It's also going to be featuring some additional features, such as the new Smart Map, which basically will have a trail that shows on your map that follows your character's last 200 hours of movement on the world map.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, really nice feature for those who are like slowly going from one side of the map to the other, trying to clear everything out just to keep track of where they've been.
I like how there's a lot of good quality of life in this, man.
Yeah, exactly, because they've also added in the new hard mode, which is going to be featuring harder enemies with regenerating health, as well as some new like puzzle locations that I guess are way up high, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Go figure. You can also get a new item called the Travel Medallion, which is going to let you set a point on the map and make it a fast travel point, so you can have a single like mark recall style thing, which is pretty cool. And then also they're going to be featuring the new Trial of the Sword, which is going to be a cool challenge mode where you face a whole series of enemies, wave after wave. You start completely buck naked and with no weapons, and as you complete each room, you're unlocking weapons and armor and progressing. Sounds like a really fun little horde mode, which I'm very excited about because I did definitely feel like the lack of a combat arena in this game was something that we were missing out on. So I'm pretty excited, I gotta say. I'm definitely going to be picking this up. This is one of the meatier DLCs I've seen for a game in a while, it feels like. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe it's just because it's Nintendo. What do you guys think about this offering?
I think it's great. Well, I think that the content's going to be great, more accurately, because after what I've seen with the game so far, like, I'm sold and I don't even have a Switch. I'm going to be one of those guys that just buys the game.
Sure. So this is like, let's put it this way. This is $10 for all of this. It's $20. You have to buy the season pass to get the DLC content, but there's 2 DLC packs, and this is the first of the 2, so it's $10 of value. Do you guys think that that's reasonable, content-wise and stuff? To me, it seems pretty good.
Sounds like good value.
I think it's great. I wish they were split up, but from what I've seen so
like
far,
you wish the cosmetics, the hard mode, the Trial of the Sword, all of that were separate updates? Or
I wish that the Trials of the Sword and the cosmetic updates were an update that you could pay $10 for, and then the under $10 would be for the story.
Yeah,
up in one.
I guess I sort of agree with that. That
Because some
said,
people might
I don't
not
really
be interested in the Trials.
But if you're not interested in the Trials, maybe you're interested in hard mode or the cosmetics or the fast travel medallion.
Yeah, I can see them doing that.
I think that's why they did it. I think they were wanting to avoid like the trap that Fallout fell into, in my opinion, which is I didn't buy half the DLC because it was garbage. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like, oh, you segmented this all up, so I'm not going to buy most of it.
I would argue that 3/4 of it was garbage. There was only one good one.
My point being, sure, you're not wrong, but my point is that, you know, I think that sometimes over-segmenting stuff can lead to less purchases overall, because I'll be honest, they could have added nothing but Majora's Mask to this, and I would have shelled out $10 for it.
Yeah, you have a point.
But I'm a fanboy.
I think it's ultimately, I think it's not a bad deal, because at the end of the day, the people who love this game is just golden, period, number one.
Sure.
And then you also have longtime fans of the Zelda series. And because of that, you can bundle multiple things together and have a $10 purchase that's going to feel substantial.
Right.
And I'm not even along.
I mean, this is a $10 purchase, especially with the hard mode, that could add another 200 plus hours of playtime.
Exactly. So ultimately, I'm not even a fan of the series, and I think it's acceptable.
I'm excited just for increased difficulty on enemies and stuff and regenerating health.
And before the Flame War starts, I just haven't played any Zelda games.
Yeah, we know. It's Zelda all good. We still love you, Brandon. Don't worry.
Yeah, so when I say I'm not a fan, it's just I haven't played and steeped in the lore.
Sure. One thing I would like to see, be it, I don't know if they'd want to do this by adding in new weapons or rebalancing the existing ones or what, is some changes to the weapons in some point in the DLC. It'd be nice to get additional ones or, I don't know, something just to add some variety to that. But that's just more of a minor request from a fan. But yeah, that pretty much covers that story, and we're running out of time here, but there's one more story we have to cover before we go, and that is the announcement of the 2DS XL, the new Nintendo handheld, sort of. So, yeah, this is, you guys know there's the new 3DS XL. This is the 2DS version of that. However, it's making some big changes from the last 2DS, which looks like a garbage children's toy from Tiger. If you guys remember, the first 2DS was one single rectangular block that could not fold 2 screens high with no 3D features, which was fine, but the new one folds, which is huge, looks really nice. It's smaller, doesn't have the 3D features, but it has a price point to match. Just overall, it looks really slick. It's launching at $150, which is so reasonable. I mean, you asked me earlier, Brandon, what do I think about? Do I think it's unfair to pay $70? That's about the same as an Xbox controller. Yeah, I do, because for twice the price of this controller, I could get a 3DS. That's why I have a problem with the price point. But yeah, I mean, this is a great price point. It's a really slick design.
So what's the real difference between the new 3DS XL and the 2DS XL?
3D.
And that's it?
And size, I think. I think the 2DS is a little bit smaller.
Okay.
But 3D is the big difference. They both feature the new Z button. They both feature some additional game support and some more features like the C stick. But then the 2DS does not have that 3D slider on the side that the other 3DSs do, which honestly, it's such a novelty anyways. Most games don't.
Do you have one of the new 3DSs?
Excuse me?
Do you have one of the new 3DS XLs?
I have a 3DS XL Special Edition. I do not have a new 3DS XL.
Is the 3D cool?
It's a novelty. It's neat.
Okay.
It kind of hurts your eyes after too long. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't say spend the extra $50 just for the 3D.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Also, I like the lines on this new one. So nice.
I do too, except that it looks like an iPhone 4, the top screen.
Yeah, it works, man.
I think it looks kind of weird. I don't like the unused screen space. I wish the screen was a little bit bigger, because it does not use a lot of its real estate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel you there. Yeah, because I'm thinking about either getting this or the 3DS. And
I mean, get this. Just get this. You might as well. The 3D feature is not worth it, I'm telling you. A lot of games, a lot of modern games, can't even really make good use of it anyways, because they're trying to push graphics, not 3D.
Yeah, but it looks clean, man.
Exactly. It's slick. It's the best version of the console to date. They're going to keep releasing these damn innovations of the 3DS probably for a little while yet, since they've said they're not going to be doing any more dedicated handhelds. So it should be interesting.
There's still games coming out for it, and the games library is extremely fleshed out now. If there's a time to get in, it's now.
Yeah, if you've ever wondered, 3DS is the premier handheld console. If you're going to only own one, it's the one to own.
Yeah, and if you're not too big into the 3D or just don't really care, I would say go for this for a fact. Also, the design is
I would just say go for this. Period. This is slick. It's nice looking. It folds. It's cheap. You don't need the 3D. Pick this up if you want a 3DS, for sure.
Yeah, but it can take all the cartridges just like all the other ones?
Yep,
yeah.
It has all the same features. It's just size and 3D feature.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm going to pre-order one of these bad boys.
Hell yeah.
And also, quick side note. In the U.S., you only get the black and cyan option.
We can't get the white gold?
You can't get the white gold or the other one. There's like 3 different colors. We only get access to the black. I like black, so I'm kind of stoked for it. But at the same time, there is an option. The only option, if you really want to bust out for another color, there are like 1999.jp, which there's a couple of Japanese sites that will ship to the U.S.
Sure, or if you don't want to deal with all that, you can always just get skins.
Yeah, it really is up to you. That's the only gripe I have, really. I don't care because I like black, but at the same time, color options are kind of important.
Yep, definitely. And this is something Nintendo's always kind of struggled with. I recommend looking at the third-party skins. They work really well on 3DSs and look really nice. Look into those. You can spend $40 and make it whatever color you want, or get a cool ass printed out graphic or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm telling you what, man, I'm probably gonna grab this thing, man.
Hell yeah! Well, for now, we are actually running a little bit over, so we are going to bring things to a close. As I'm sure you guys can tell, this show has been procedurally generated. We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please be sure to check us out on Libsyn and iTunes, where you can leave a rating or review. You can also watch video of the episode on my channel, lesser.noob on YouTube, or you can check out the audio on zonecoverage.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at PG_show. Thank you guys so much for listening, and as always, game on.